Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you today by Cape Regional Health System. For a healthier life, call 609-463-CAPE. Geoff Mosher and the Inside the Birds guys. They'll be on Radio Row in Arizona, providing coverage for Eagles fans on their platforms as well as Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. You know, we're at the Gallery Bar Book and Games. We're taking a look at where the money's kind of traveling early. And according to our man Frank over there, the money early is on the Eagles here in Jersey. But out in Vegas, the line's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise that this book and, any book probably on the East Coast is going to be leaning towards Eagles money coming in, the books needing the Chiefs. Probably a little bit more split out in Vegas, Mike.
And under looks like a number that is more popular right now with the fans out there. The under number 51 is where it's at. You like that?
I like the under.
Yeah, it seems like everybody we're talking
up.
to seeming like I said, if the Eagles get to 23, if the Chiefs only scored 23,
Eagles
which is what
win.
Kansas City scored last week, do the Eagles win the game? Everybody so far has said yes. Well, what do they win? If they get into the 30s, 23 in the 30s, you're now over 51.
Right. Yeah, 30-23 obviously isn't over. So
35-21 would be great.
35-21?
Yeah, I got
you
5-1. Yeah, not great numbers, but
anything's possible.
35-21, I'll take that. 35-31.
It's very, very realistic, man. We get weird scores all the time in these Super Bowls.
I feel like 35, though, has got to be my number. If you have a 5 Eagles, is 25 a realistic number? That's a hard number to get to.
25-21.
25 is hard, though.
It is hard.
That's hard. 35, obviously, 7, it goes perfectly. But
you need like a missed extra point. You need some weird stuff to happen.
Yeah, I would probably be more inclined. 35 would be 25. I don't think I'm getting to. Now, the one on the other side, 21, 31.
Well, one's a great number. Yeah, 1, you got a lot of outs. Not so much with
I'm not
the 5.
getting 11.
Probably not getting 11.
So it's really either 21 or 31.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it gets up to 41, then I feel like it's a long day at the office for the Eagles.
Yeah, it would be 41-35. Chiefs win. You win?
45-41. How about that?
There you go. That sounds best.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, hopefully. Yeah. Sports Bash Live, we got Geoff Mosher now from InsideTheBirds.com as we take a look at the Eagles getting ready for the Chiefs. But before we get there, Mosher and the Inside the Birds crew will be in Arizona for 3 days, and they're going to have coverage on Inside the Birds platform. Geoff, why don't you give our listeners some insight on how they'll be able to find you guys and some of the stuff that you're working on for Inside the Birds?
Yeah, thanks. We're going to have a great time. We'll be out there. We're going to start live streaming from Radio Row on Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, myself, Adam Kaplan, and Andrew DeCecco. It's got about a 4-hour block of live streaming between 10 and 2. It might be a little flexible. It might be like 10:30 to 2:30 or 10 to 3, but we're going to at least do 4-hour blocks of live streaming each day and we've got a lot of great interviews set up. I'm really excited. I think we're going to get Zach Ertz on with us and looking to get Lou Riddick on and a whole bunch of former Eagles and some NFL people. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, so that's every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, while we're out there. They'll be there as well, so you can check out their stuff. And then at 4 o'clock, the guys will be live on set with us for Football at 4. And some of those days it could be, Jeff and Andrew, Andrew and Adam, Adam and Jeff. So we might have a lot more insight for Football at 4 next week. We'll set that all up. One of the things this week you take a look at, Jeff, is this Eagles offense. And, look, this is an Eagles offense that is really going to be interesting because they're intact. The only spots that are kind of in question is running back, right guard, and then whatever happens with Jason Kelce. But this offense really has a chance to kind of, be one of the better offenses for a while here, right? This is an offense that has an opportunity. They're all homegrown. This is a homegrown offense, and they have a really good opportunity to stick together. And this game here, it can show you their versatility, that they can run and they can pass. So if we're looking at Shane Steichen and what he wants to do with this offense that he's been with for 2 years now, does he say, you know what, we're running the ball so well, let's see if Kansas City can stop us? Is that their best method with this group that has been together for so long that he knows so well.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he has, in many cases, Mike and Ryan, they have sort of a triple threat offense, which we used to hear about a lot in college, but it's kind of permeated the NFL, and that's on any given play. Well, in college it used to be the running back, the quarterback might run, or he might pitch it to the running back, or there's a fullback in there, the old Nebraska style of offense, right? But here, with the way the Eagles are running the RPOs, there's a threat for the running back to run, there's a threat for the quarterback to run, there's a threat for the quarterback to pass. And that means the defense that you have has to be so disciplined, has to play multiple, almost play multiple gaps. You have to have one guy who may not be a two-gapper, but sort of occupy two gaps mentally with what he's seeing in front of him. And it gives the Eagles so much optionality. And there are some really good defenses, including the 49ers, that eventually get worn down by having to be completely perfect on every single snap. There were a lot of good snaps by that 49ers defense early in the game. You remember that play where Nick Bosa nearly dragged Jalen Hurts down for a safety. But at the end, you saw them get tired because the Eagles can run the quick game on you. I will imagine that you'll see a lot of no huddle. And really, a lot of that not only starts with the running quarterback, I don't want to call Jalen Hurts a running quarterback, a quarterback who can run, but also with an offensive line that is just so massive and can wear you down and can enable that running back to get, 3 or 4 yards before he's even touched. So, yeah, I think Shane Steichen will continue to do that. I don't think they're going to deviate from their game plan too much. If they want to throw, I think they will. And I do agree with you that when you've got 10 of 11 starters who are homegrown, and that kind of bodes well for how you look at the future of the team, future of the offense at least.
Yeah, and having that, that continuity, this is the kind of game where having that continuity, you know everybody, you know everything, you know their strengths, you know their weaknesses, you've been with this group, and I think that's something that could play here because, as you said, if push comes to shove and they're struggling, they can really run the ball. But one of the things Ryan and I have been kind of talking about with this offense is does Steve Spagnuolo, Steve, you know what kind of defense he likes to play? Does he say, Jalen Hurts, if you guys are going to win the game, I'm going to make you beat me? Do you anticipate Spags and Andy Reid putting that kind of game plan together to say, make the quarterback beat us?
You know what? That's a great question. I think if Steve Spagnuolo, who likes to be a nickel, likes to blitz at times, likes to show blitz, likes to be aggressive, if he takes that approach into this game, might get bit. He really might. I don't think coaches like to do things differently, but I think you have to have some sense of reality, right, when you're building a game plan and what you're going against. And the Eagles' offense really has not been slowed down very much this year. And the teams that did it sort of sold out one way or may have caught the Eagles in their worst moment, like where if you're talking about the Colts or the Bears. We can't really count the Saints. That wasn't Jalen Hurts running. So I don't know. I'm curious. Steve's been around for a while, and he hasn't always called a game the same way. Curious to see if Spags thinks that he can just play his normal defense and win the game. The one thing that he's always been able to do, I use this analogy with somebody else. Spags is like the guy who goes out to dinner with a really richer guy or what really wealthy guy. So you order the shrimp and lobster because you know that guy's going to cover it. Because he always calls an aggressive defense because he knows that even if his defense gets burned, Patrick Mahomes and Andy are going to bail him out. He doesn't mind throwing a couple cover zeros out there, all-out blitzes, and they give up a
Well, sounds like we lost Moshe.
Yeah. We lost him at the steak and lobster comment a little bit after that.
But he was giving us a good expository on what we thought. But, we know Spags, of course, for people who don't remember, Steve Spagnuolo was here in Philadelphia with Andy Reid, and he was a coordinator, too, he was the head coach with the Rams. He was a coordinator with the Giants. Mm-hmm. So he has been around. I mean, this is a guy who has been around the league and has certainly seen a lot. And you wonder if that 2 weeks and this veteran coaching staff for a 2-week thing, how much that factored. I was on Good Morning NFC East this morning with Jeff Kerr, and we were talking about, hey, the coaching, the preparation for this game. Do you give Andy Reid the check mark in that department? Like, do you worry that, hey, you give Andy 2 weeks to figure out what he's got with this Eagles team? Is he going to put together a really good game plan?
I'm sure he is, right? But that's not the be-all, end-all, right? I think some of that's overrated, Mike. I really do. And I'm not just saying that because the Eagles have the more inexperienced coaching staff. It's at the end of the day, dude, these guys have to go out and play and put their helmet and pads on, and a better team's going to win with the better players and the guys who execute more. So I don't look at, well, there's an extra week and you got to give it to Big Red. Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit, right? But I don't look at it as
now
a huge difference.
You're starting to sound like me.
Why? Just because of –
Just, hey, listen, they have a check mark in that spot, but just
do.
because they have the check mark in that spot doesn't necessarily mean that it's
Right.
going to play out. Whatever happens on that Sunday is what happens.
Yes.
You know, the fact that you won whatever to whatever against this team on week 7, how does that factor into this game?
Right, yeah, it doesn't.
Right, but when it happens in the moment, fans get so worked up. Like, they lost this game. Okay, they lost the game against the Washington Commanders. They look bad. Yeah. What does that loss have to do with how this game will play out?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, unless you want to take similarities from the opponent, right? Like, okay, I get that, but Washington and Kansas City, they're not very similar. You know, it's just it's two different sides of the coin there. In what we're trying to compare and contrast. Kansas City's built different. Obviously, that's why they're here. You know, I look at this Kansas City team and you just say it's Mahomes, man. It's how can we limit Mahomes?
But this is a good, like, I think this is a good, like, example of whatever you did in a game in week 10, no matter how good you looked or bad you looked, or a 3-week stretch or a 5-week stretch.
Yeah.
And Moshe, you can come into this conversation. We were talking about when you left is, you know, Andy, 2 weeks, he's very well prepared to. Oh, sounds like we lost Mosher. Mosher must have a bad. Wherever he is must be a bad area. But how that factors in to this game, and to me, that's what I say. It doesn't matter if Dallas Cowboys won 40-3 1 week. What did that get for them? Nothing.
Whole lot of nothing.
You look bad 1 week and lose a game. You know, the Eagles they lost that game to Washington. Well, they didn't look all that good against Chicago. They didn't look all that good against Indianapolis.
Right.
How do those games factor into this game? Not at all, really. Not at all. And conversely, just because they ripped off 16 wins and looked really good in doing it most of the time, that doesn't necessarily going to come in and look great on this particular Sunday.
No, absolutely not. No, I agree with that. I mean, and that's one of the things that has, I know a lot of fans a little bit uneasy, is like this Eagles team has been so dominant for the vast majority of this season that you start to worry about things that don't exist, right? Like you start to worry about, well, has it been too easy? And maybe the level of competition hasn't been anywhere close to this Kansas City level that we're about to face.
Well, I don't, and that's an interesting comment you just made, because I don't agree with. It's the best quarterback you faced all year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have faced better defenses.
Teams. Yeah.
This is probably the best offensive line they faced.
Best offensive line, best quarterback, one of, if not the best coaching staffs, right?
Tight end.
Tight end, he's number one. Kelsey's the best tight end on the planet.
Yeah, I don't even know that there's a – in fact, if you talk to some people, they would say he's not even a tight end. He's really a wide receiver.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you can categorize that are not the traditional tight end, but that position is sort of becoming extinct in general anyway.
The tight end?
Yeah, the old school tight end, the Chad Lewises of the world, right? That they do not exist is my point. They do. It's just shifting away from that.
Yeah, they're much more athletic guys, much more dynamic runners and pass catchers. But like the Eagles, and I'll ask Moshe this, we saw Jack Stoll a lot in 11 last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess that was. And, what is the reasoning? Because Goddard's a pretty good blocker, but, that's something that's a little wrinkle in the game. Do they use Stoll if they're going to run the ball more? Is that something that we anticipate them using again?
Were you talking about the 49ers game that they did that, or before?
Yeah, the Niner game. Well, yeah, really, both of the games.
Yeah, I remember, a week or two ago noticing that, or a game or two ago also, and we were wondering if maybe they were just trying to give a rest to Dallas Goedert when they could, because he did have that shoulder injury at the end of the year. But they also like to do some different things, switch it up, give you some different looks. So they do a whole lot of, they were playing Grant Calcaterra occasionally in 12 personnel without Snell, so that it was Goddard and Grant at one time. So I think that what they do is they recognize they've got some pretty good tight ends, and two of them can play similarly. That's Goddard and Stoll. I'm not saying they're obviously not the same talent level, but from when you put them on the field and you interchange them a little bit, it gives the defense a little bit more guesswork.
Moshe, what's if we're trying to guess the chess match here, what's something that you can anticipate the Eagles doing on either side of the ball that may be a little bit different than what we've seen in recent games?
Oh, boy. I mean, you almost don't want the Eagles to change up too much, right, because what they've done is so well. But that is a good point. I sort of wonder about the gadgetry, the trick play. We saw the Philly special unleashed in the Super Bowl, and we had seen the flea flicker in the NFC Championship game, I'm pretty sure, right, to Torrey Smith. That was against the Vikings.
Yeah.
So, if I go through the year, I don't really remember Doug pulling off a ton of trickery. He was aggressive on fourth down. He was aggressive on going for two. But there weren't a ton of games I remember where you saw kind of what you call gadgetry type of stuff. At most, maybe like, Nelson Aguilar on a reverse, or like used as a wing back. So I do wonder with both of these coaches in this game if you'll see a little bit of that more, Ryan, as that cat and mouse starts developing. And, both defenses are going to be aggressive. And usually those plays only work because you're catching an aggressive defense off the guard. They're all sort of misdirections or slow developing plays to take advantage of a defense being aggressive. So that wouldn't surprise me if you saw a little bit more of that.
Well, and you mentioned aggressive. One thing the Eagles did last – by the way, Jack Stoll played 24 plays last against San Francisco. 32% of the snaps, Jack Stoll was on the field. So just, keep that in mind when you're watching this game on Sunday. But you say aggressive. The Eagles played a lot of five-man front against San Francisco. Do you anticipate – because Kansas City does not run the ball all that much. So do you see the five-man front still against this offense?
Early on, yeah, I think you do the Eagles always play five-man fronts, right, until they get ahead and force teams to become pass-heavy and one-dimensional. And I don't think they want to – I know where you're going with that, because if you come out in your four-man front and nickel, you're sort of inviting Kansas City to run. And if you're inviting Kansas City to run, then that's sort of what you want, right? You don't want Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. But at the same time, when the Eagles are in nickel, they don't really stop the run that well, and Pacheco can be a threat. So, listen, I think that they're going to do what they do. I think they're going to play – if they're going to match their personnel to what the Chiefs come out in. If the Chiefs come out spread, 11 personnel, and looks like they're going to be throwing the ball over the place, then the Eagles will probably come out and nickel a lot. If the Eagles – but the Chiefs play with a fullback. And they play with their tight ends, not just Kelsey. They'll put some tight ends on the field. So if they do that, then the Eagles will be in their five-man fronts.
Well, we'll be breaking it down all week. Football at 4, the guys will be here. And, of course, you can check out InsideTheBirds.com. The podcast is out for today. They really take a good deep dive in how this Eagles team was built. Check that out on their platforms. And, of course, check out Football at 4 all this week right here, leading you in to Super Bowl 57, the best insight on Eagles and Chiefs around on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Moshe, we'll see you out there.
Mike, real quick, did I get cut off during my great Steve Spagnuolo analogy? Did I get to finish that?
No, I don't think so. If you made a Steve Spagnuolo analogy, I did not hear it.
I heard it.
You did it?
I think, but go ahead. Go ahead, Moshe. Say it.
I was basically saying the way he coaches. So he's like the guy when you go out with a guy who's much richer than you for dinner and you order the steak and lobster because that guy's going to cover the meal because he's rich. That's the way Spagnuolo calls a game. He's very, very aggressive because he knows that if his blitz gets beaten, that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the offense are going to go out and bail him out. But every once in a while, you're out there thinking your buddy's going to cover, and he's like, you know what, money's a little tight this week, and this could be the week where the money's a little tight.
I like it.
Hey, listen, not only the money tight, maybe that ankle tight, and it'll be interesting because both these teams are 1 and 2 in sacking the quarterback. These are the two best offensive lines. They're probably the best two teams in their respective conferences in the trenches. And how does that change the dynamics of what these two teams can do? The Chiefs got to Burrow. They're not going to be able to – you would imagine they're not going to get the same pressure that they got against Burrow against Hurts. And conversely, their offensive line is very good. Will the Eagles be able to get the same kind of pressure that they generally get in these games because they feast on bad offensive lines? That will be a big key in this one. All right, Moshe, we'll talk to you, buddy.
All right, guys. Have a good one.